The views and opinions expressed on Wrestling Winedown are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of any other agency, organization, employer, or company. What's up, guys? It's Lo, and you are tuned in to Wrestling Winedown, a female-founded and hosted podcast dedicated to professional wrestling and our favorite adult beverage. Welcome to another episode of Chardonnay Chisme, your wrestling girl talk. We're live in Chicago. I'm in Chicago with Iridian Fior of the Rest Friends podcast, and we are spilling the wine on all the Chisme and professional wrestling, including MJF's current situation, which includes him booking a flight back to the LI, to missing a meet and greet, and cussing out his boss on national television. We'll also be chatting about the injuries that have been in AEW and WWE, including Cody Rhodes and CM Punk. We also will be chatting about the return of John Cena to the WWE in our review on Hell in a Cell, as well as the Black Label Pro Show in Indiana. So grab your glass of wine. We're going in for the 3 count. We are back with another episode of Chardonnay Chisme. We are live here in Chicago, Illinois, recording this episode. I feel official as a whistle.
Can you believe it?
I can't. We announced on social media a couple months ago that Iridian is officially Wrestling Winedown Elite, all elite. Tony Khan is going to sue me for trying to make his graphic, but Iridian is officially a part of Wrestling Winedown. She is our social media assistant. She'll pop in here and there, but she'll still be on like Chardonnay and Chisme episodes, and she'll pop in for other episodes as well. So congratulations. Insert the cheers here.
Insert the applause. Thank you so much for even considering me for the position. I know that I get a t-shirt, and that's what I'm really excited about. So Winedown staff, here for it.
Let's move into the Chisme. So Maxwell Jacob Friedman, also known as MJF, he has a lot of drama around him lately. In Las Vegas, Double or Nothing weekend, we saw that he didn't show up to his meet and greet. And Sean Ross Sapp reported it. And I saw a couple rumors online that he was actually in the casino gambling when he was supposed to be at his meet and greet. His meet and greet was $100. These fans were pissed, obviously, because they spent that much money. So obviously they were disappointed that they didn't get that experience. I personally would not meet him. I would be scared shitless to even make eye contact with this man. Would you meet him?
I want to say that I definitely would. I guess it just depends on the day. If I'm passing by and I see him being rude to a lot of other people, I'm going to definitely be turned off to not get it. But if I feel like he's being reasonable that day, and like reasonable for MJF would be like
maybe
nothing,
an eye roll.
Yeah, nothing too crazy, right? Maybe maybe a middle finger is like okay, but he's up in the air for me, so it depends on the day.
Right. He didn't show up to his meet and greet, and then there were rumors online swirling that a flight had been booked back to the LI, Long Island, for MJF, and he was not going to compete at Double or Nothing. Then we heard that he actually didn't catch the flight, and then the next day, which was Sunday, Double or Nothing, we heard that he wasn't at the arena yet for the show. Then he showed up. I was present. He was the first one out the gate, other than the Ass Boys and the Acclaimed before the show went live. But he was the first one. He wanted to make sure he got his job done. He made his check, and he went right back to his Escalade and went back to the LI. He probably didn't even unpack his bag.
And you know what's really interesting about that? I feel like maybe they put him as the first match because they didn't know how he would be, if he would even compete, I guess. So they're like, okay, we have him here now. Let's just make sure that we can get the match. And then if he wants to leave afterwards, he can. Because if he was like the main event or towards later in the night, I don't think that he would have just stayed. Because he's like, maybe people can talk to me backstage. Maybe Tony can say something and continue speculation. Let me just go out there, do my match, and call it.
Most recently, MJF cut this promo on Dynamite, and it had the internet going absolute ape. MJF got on a mic. He went on for about 5 or 6 minutes talking about how Tony Khan has the money to pay ex-WWE guys the big bucks, but he can't pay him, and that he's been a high-grossing performer on the AEW roster, which I think we're all well aware of. That wasn't the most shocking part. I think a lot of people were kind of like, yeah, we see his point of view. He's coming in with a fact-based statement, so people are on the same page as him. It's towards the end when his anger took over, and he just kind of went off the rails. He asked Tony to fire him numerous times, and he called Tony a
Mark, and then the mic cut off. It felt like the Black China cut the cameras, dead ass gif, okay? It really felt like that. But interestingly, there has been no photos on social media from AEW of this promo. There's been no video. There's been no tweet. There's been nothing. And that's peculiar for AEW because they usually will put little snippets up of matches, of segments, even pictures. And we haven't seen anything. It's like the didn't even happen.
Yeah, that was the craziest promo I'd seen. I really love MJF's work, whether it was a work or not. The way that this man promos is just different. It hits different. But the promo was just insane. And the way that they bleeped it, you would have thought that this man was saying so many other things. And I'm like, that's what you bleeped? Because he said, fire me, you Mark. I thought he was really cussing him out. They were like, beep, 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 beep. Like, you would have thought there was cars outside traffic honking. And no, it was just that. And I was like, okay. He could have said a lot of other things. I don't think, honestly, that was that bad. Because honestly, aren't we all Mark?
I don't think it's the fact that he said Mark. I think it's the fact that he said And we both went to school for journalism. The FTC will come after you like no fucking other.
Yeah.
And the fact that he said it on live television, I think that's what really was like, okay, he went too far.
No. Yeah.
And a lot of wrestling fans, they've speculated. I've seen a clip going around that says that Mark is at the same level as a racial slur, which I've never heard that before.
I've never heard that.
I really do think it's the fact that he said I think that they were just like, okay, cut the mic, cut it. We can't have that. And I know a lot of fans aren't, into this side of media or journalism or anything like that, so they won't realize it. Yeah. It's like the same thing on the radio. If someone says or they're going to get fined. And that's just how it is. That you should know that when you get into television or radio. So do you think it's a work? Do you think it did not start as a work and it's turned into one because they see how invested the fans are in learning more about what's going on with MJF's situation? They're playing on our nosiness. Or do you feel like this shit is real?
I don't know. And that's what's crazy is that they have kind of now blurred the lines of, is this real? Is this a work? Because we had heard a lot of rumors prior that MJF was unhappy with his stance in AEW and that he wanted more money and that he was entertaining, maybe possibly going to WWE, and that WWE really wanted MJF. So I feel like if that company wanted him, they can afford him. And I don't know, man. This is just crazy because Twitter likes to speculate, and so do I.
Amen. Amen.
So MJF, maybe. I feel like it might have started as, this is real and I'm unhappy. And Tony was like, oh, okay. But I feel like they also play off of a lot of things that WWE does. And I feel like I've seen this, and maybe they're just playing us the way that WWE does.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people online who feel a certain type of way about MJF's situation because they feel like it has a lot of similarities to the Naomi and Sasha situation that is currently going on. Naomi and Sasha walked out of Monday Night Raw a couple of weeks ago because they were unhappy with the way the main event was going to go. They put their titles down and they left. We haven't heard anything since. We know that their merch has been taken off the website. Supposedly, they're not getting paid. We have really no idea what's going on because there hasn't been a statement from Naomi and Sasha.
Yeah.
We've seen a statement from WWE, and, they've talked about how they're unprofessional on the air. They've talked about how they let us down. I don't know who us is, but they've talked about that. And people have really been paying attention to the narrative that Naomi and Sasha have received versus what MJF has received. Because at the end of the day, MJF did not show up to work. He literally missed a meet and greet. And I haven't heard anyone say, well, that was really unprofessional of him. People haven't used the same verbiage when it comes to this white man as they have two black women that decided to walk out of work because they were not happy with what they were given being put on the table. I think, too, the similarities with these two situations is it a work? Is it not? And for me, it's like, I really don't think Sasha and Naomi is a work because the way that WWE handled it was extremely unprofessional. It was unprofessional of them to even release that statement. And the fact that, they're talking about on air them being unprofessional and they let us down, it leaves a sour taste in my mouth because it's like you have 3 black women on your main roster. You've dogged 2 of them and you've left the other one. Obviously, Bianca Belair is one of my favorite wrestlers, but you have her being the head person of representation at this point when it comes to black women in the WWE on the main roster. It really leaves a sour taste in my mouth. But when it comes to MJF, it seems like everyone is more fascinated with if it's a work or not, or wow, MJF is so good on the mic. And they aren't focusing on this man doesn't even want to be there. He's cussing his boss out on TV. He did not show up to work. They don't have the same attitude when it comes to MJF, in my opinion.
Yeah. I want to say that the way that AEW is handling it, I guess, again, very different people in the way that like Naomi and Sasha were champions and they were unhappy with how things were going. So they left their championships in the office and they said, we're done. But also WWE released that statement right after that their champions had walked out. And this, MJF, not a champion, but if AEW would have released a statement, then I feel like maybe people would have been like, oh man, like, you know what? Maybe that is really unprofessional. But AEW didn't do that. So they still let him go out there and cut a promo talking about, okay, yeah, Tony, you can fire me. That makes me believe that it's a work, because if it wasn't, why would you let him go out there and say things like that? Especially to Tony. And you know Tony's in the back watching. Tony watches everything. So Tony,
Girl, he sure do.
Tony watches everything. And that whole meet and greet situation, and like, where did the booked flight like come from? They said this man was out of there.
I just want to know if there's a Maxwell Jacob Friedman who happened to be going by the same name, maybe a nice little businessman from New York City who happened to be going to Long Island for the weekend, maybe came out to Vegas just to have a little fun.
Yeah.
Now he's in the news. What if it wasn't actually MJF? What if it was another person by that name? We don't know. We'll never know.
We don't know. And this whole Naomi and Sasha situation, people were talking about it forever.
Yeah.
They were speculating all night. People were on Twitter Spaces talking about what's going to happen. You know, Sasha was going to call in, I guess, to these Twitter Spaces and say, oh, this is what's really happening. And no, like, nobody knows, and we still don't know, and we're not going to until Sasha and Naomi say something. So we have to wait. This is a waiting game. And props to Sasha and Naomi for standing up and saying something, because that is definitely such a hard thing to do in a massive company, and a company that has tried, you know, to really put down the wrestlers beforehand. Wrestlers have tried to unionize and have been extremely unsuccessful. And them not being able to do so has really affected wrestling in general and how they are considered, independent contractors. So do better, please. And I feel like this might be a step in the right direction, even though like we are being hurt because Sasha and Naomi aren't there. But they should change the way that they handle their talent because of this. And Corey said that they were disappointing us, or who was it, Michael Cole?
It was Michael Cole.
And he's like,
Pat,
we're disappointed. Yeah.
And Pat was just sitting there like...
Pat was like, what are you talking about?
Right.
Which is the reaction that everyone had. We were sitting there like, I'm not disappointed. They didn't let me down, because they didn't.
I think Bianca Belair said it best in a recent interview. She said she is not commenting on the Sasha and Naomi situation until they say something. And I think that's the stance that a lot of people need to take is we will not comment on stuff until it unfolds. I think it's okay to have an opinion as a fan and be like, hey, I thought this was right, or this, this was wrong. But a lot of people are taking it way too far. Like, the only work you should really be paying attention to is the one that you have to report to from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. A lot of these people are putting so much energy into these women, especially the negative people. And it's like, for what? You don't know these women personally. You probably will never even be on their level. So why are you so concerned about them walking out of work? Worry about your work. And I know that sounds really harsh, but
it's not, because the way that the internet has reacted to this is insane. And I get it. It was on E! And it was on TMZ.
Which I feel like was a plant.
Yes. And all of these publications were reporting on it, and their merch is off the website. And, people are refreshing their pages to see if they're still on the roster, if they're still working with the company. But like, what can we do? We don't work at WWE. We don't work with Sasha and Naomi. We don't know what's happening with them. We're not in their group chats, honestly. So we honestly don't matter in this situation. What matters is Sasha and Naomi and what they have in renegotiating their contracts or their meetings with Vince. So that's on them, and we just have to wait.
Yeah, I mean, we can wait and support them, but if, like, honestly, the people with the negative just need to go.
Just relax, please.
Just relax. Moving on, in regards to AEW, CM Punk was crowned the new AEW World Champion at Double or Nothing, which was on a Sunday. And on Wednesday, he relinquished the title. He's injured. Tony Khan has put together a new idea where we're going to start with Jon Moxley. There's going to be a battle royal. Then they're going to bring in some New Japan Pro wrestlers to face off against each other. And whoever wins all of that will face off at the end to become the new champion. And I'm going to be completely honest with you. Until they put out that press release, I had no idea what was going on. I read it. I read what was going on Twitter, and I was like, first of all, I had no idea that CM Punk was injured. Secondly, everything is all over the place. There's nothing organized. So I was glad to see when they finally put out a press release, which should have gone out at the same time as CM Punk giving his speech. But we were in the car the other day. We were having a nice, jolly time here in Chicago, and I thought of two theories that I think should be incorporated here, but who knows if it actually will. To me, I think two people would be the best people to have as champions right now. It would be either Hangman or MJF if he decides that he wants to stay with AEW. I think with Hangman, we saw the hesitation of him trying to use the title belt during the main event at Double or Nothing, and he decided not to use that title belt, and he eventually lost it. I think having him be champion now, he can say, look, I did the right thing by not using this championship belt to win the match, and look at that. I had good karma, and now I'm the champion again. I think the story writes itself, and once Punk comes back, they can tussle like the girlies do, and then go from there. But at the same time, I think of MJF, and I think of this whole situation that we just discussed, and how he could be like, well, Tony should pay me more. I'm here while the ex-WWE guy is out injured. I'm your workhorse. I'm here day in and day out with this title. Those are the two that I think. I've seen Wardlow thrown around. I'm a Wardlow stan, but I don't think it's Wardlow's time with the title at this point. I think he really needs to have a strong feud after MJF that is not for the title. He's really popular right now, but let it grow. I think he could get to being one of the top baby faces in the company, but don't put the title on him that quickly. I'm off my soapbox. What were your thoughts with the announcement? Who do you feel like would be a great new quote-unquote interim champion? They're not the actual champion. They're the interim champion.
You know what? I say put it back on Hangman because he was the previous champion. I don't understand where they were like, okay, Jon Moxley, and then Jon Moxley's in, and then everyone else will have a tournament or a bracket or a battle royal, whatever they're having. Somebody had to make a diagram on Twitter for me to understand what was happening.
They had to explain it to us like we were 5.
Yes. And I was like, okay, thank you so much, because now I kind of get it. But it's just so confusing, and I feel like it's a lot of hoops and jumping, and I don't know. What is the phrase? You know what I'm trying to say.
Yes.
Yeah, you get
Jumping
it.
through hoops, yep.
I think just put it back on Hangman. It's less confusing. He was just champion. We get it. And this could be maybe where Hangman turns heel because he's like, well, I lost my championship because I didn't use it to my advantage. But now here's my advantage. Punk is gone. And I told everybody that, he wasn't good for the company, and I was right. And Punk is said to be injured, maybe I want to say for a couple months.
Yeah.
So I think just giving it back to Hangman for those couple months, why would you have a 2-month, 3-month champion just to give it back? Also, what does interim mean? So am I just going to have to just give it back when the person is there? Are you fighting me for it? What's the deal?
So I think about the whole TNT championship thing when Cody was out and they gave it to Sammy. I think it's like that, but they ended up with 2 title belts. So the title should be fully relinquished, just like they do in WWE. The first person I
just
can
relinquish
think of,
it. I'm sorry you got injured, Punk, and I love you so much. But if you can't compete and if you're not a fighting champion, I'm sorry. Give it to someone who's there and who can defend it.
We've seen Batista do it. We've seen Naomi do it. We've seen so many people just relinquish the title and they just pick up and start over. I don't think it's necessarily fair that you do an interim champion because you're screwing whoever is the interim champion.
Yeah.
For when the person actually comes back, then it's like, okay, what do we do now?
I think about Finn Balor.
Yes.
And he won. He popped his shoulder out in the match, popped it back in. And the next day he was like, I'm so sorry, guys. I got to give this championship back. And my thing with that was that he wasn't like the number 1 contender when he came back. So I feel like if they do this, give it back to Hangman, and CM Punk is the number 1 contender when he comes back. It doesn't matter what happens. He's getting his rematch because that's technically his title. Man, this is just so confusing. Tony, I don't know why you did this to us.
I feel like Tony's confused. I'm confused. You're confused. So we'll just watch and all be confused, right?
But I do like your thoughts on MJF because he has been said to be one of the 4 pillars of AEW. And it would be a great idea because he needs something to do besides cutting these promos in the ring. Like, have him fight. And now that he's not with Wardlow anymore, he needs something. So maybe if not that championship, go for another one.
Speaking of injury, We went to Hell in a Cell this weekend. We also went to Indiana. Let's start with Indiana. We went to Black Label Pro. This was Iridian's first trip to Black Label Pro, and the show was amazing. They had 2 shows. They had a 3 p.m. and a 7 p.m. All the competitors did an amazing job. I felt like there was a wide, diverse amount of matches on the card, and I was very proud of Black Label Pro for putting 2 female main events on each show.
Yeah.
First main event that they had, that was 2 females. I was like, oh, okay, this is great. They don't usually do this at these shows. They might have 1 woman like they did at the show in Vegas a week ago where they had Kevin Blackwood versus Shaza McKenzie. But to have 2, I think, was a really big deal. It's something that these other companies can take notes on, that there are women that could do a main event match. You don't have to always put the men or a tag team, etc. Let the women shine. And I feel like they did an amazing job.
Yeah, they were really, really cool shows. I am glad that the women main evented, but I did want more women's matches. But good for them for, you know, it was their big shows, and Willow was amazing. Big fan of Willow. This is the first time that I've seen her wrestle live, and it was just amazing. And these shows were hitting, just like people were hitting in these matches, because the slaps were loud. I was beyond entertained. We were right in front of the camera. So if you guys go and watch that show, you will see all of our reactions.
You know, it was a great time. We saw the lady behind Top Rope Baking. She makes wrestling cookies. It was amazing to meet her. She had some incredible designs there. She has cookies named after wrestlers. She has cookies that are designed for wrestlers. So she made different sets of cookies for each show, and they were based around the wrestlers that were on the card for that specific show. And she did a great job. I think she sold out of most of her stuff. So she had a great reception there. And, you know, I'm here for the wrestling baked goods.
They were really cool because we got some Effie ones, and there were some inspired by Chris Bay, who Chris Bay didn't even know until we told him, hey, have you bought your cookie? And he was like, what? And he literally ran to the table.
We put Chris Bay on.
We did. And I'm glad that he got his cookie. And it was really cool. And I think we got a couple.
We did. I think we
still
have 8.
them. Let me count them. Yeah, I think there's like 8. And just really cool designs in general. Like, who would think to make cookies that are wrestling inspired? So this is really innovative, really cool, and people should definitely check her out.
The next day we went to Hell in a Cell, and before we even got there, Iridian was doing her red eyeshadow to complement her Cody Rhodes shirt when we found out that adrenaline in my soul, torn pectoral, Cody Rhodes. We found out that Cody Rhodes tore his pec working out. He had already injured it on Raw and further injured it while working out to prepare for the match. And we're over here like, okay, we still have to buy our tickets. Is this real? Like, are they messing with us? What's going on? And girl, when he came out and he took that jacket off, I screamed so loud.
She did. I got it on video. And what's crazy to me is that on our way there was a video on Twitter where Cody Rhodes was like signing autographs. He was like, bam, bam, just whipping them out, right? And he had his nightmare jacket on. And we were like, okay, well, if that's like the left or the right hand, then it's fine or whatever, because, you know, that's the sign, that's the hand that he was autographing with. And I just was not ready. Literally, when he took that jacket off and the arena was silent.
You had a couple people that like shrieked and screamed because they were like, what the is that?
And then there was like a hush. We're like, oh my God, is this really going to happen? We were not ready. No. And I had just sung my heart out to
she sure did.
The theme, which nobody else sung with me. So I am holding it down.
She carried that whole theme on her back. You hear me?
Okay, thank you. I really appreciate that. But oh my goodness, Cody. Honestly, he should have just walked back.
That's the argument that a lot of people made on Twitter was, are we supposed to commend him for wrestling while he's injured with a torn pec? Or are we supposed to wonder why he even came out here to wrestle? And I asked you that question of how he was cleared to wrestle with a torn pec. And he answered it for us after the show. And he said, I chose myself to come out here and wrestle this match. And I do respect Cody Rhodes. Don't get me wrong. I think he's a great performer. He's been able to come back to the WWE. He's done a great job at being one of their pinnacle superstars at this point. But I feel like he did not need to prove to us that he was a pinnacle superstar. I know his face is on the poster. I know his face was on the chairs for the event. But when you are wrestling with a torn pec, that's serious. Your whole arm is bruised. Your is done. Like, you need to go get surgery. I don't feel like he needed to prove anything to us. He didn't need to give us that performance because it was honestly hard to watch. It was hard to watch Seth hit him and work with him when we know that the man is injured. Like, it was not the best match to watch, in my opinion, because I felt like I was tensing up, wondering if he was okay or not.
I honestly don't know what a torn pectoral is, how the level of pain is, like surgery, no surgery. Well, I mean, we know now that he's going into surgery later this week, but I honestly don't know the pain level. Like, what, I mean, it looked disgusting, terrible. And it looked even worse in 4K when we saw it back. It was insane. And I honestly didn't know how Cody was going to do it. I was like, well, he's handicapped and he can only wrestle with one side. Seth Rollins, I think, is the perfect person to wrestle because Seth will protect you in the ring. Seth is probably one of the safest workers next to like The Miz or Kevin Owens. So he's really up there in being able to put on a show and keep us entertained with someone who would be either one, not experienced, or two, injured. And Cody was out here doing too much. And the crowd also was wild because they were yelling tables and thumbtacks. And what was that dude saying behind us? He thought it was a GCW.
He did think it was a GCW show. And I'm like, wrong venue, wrong company.
Wrong time, wrong place. This was not it. And Cody at one point brought out like a rope with a cowbell in the middle. And I was like, are they going to do tug of war? Cody, you only have one hand. There's no way. And it wasn't even a tug of war. I don't know what they were doing. But the sledgehammer came out and I was like, oh my God, this is it. I just wanted this match to end, honestly. I was worried for Cody. And I'm like, in a cell? Really? This isn't just a regular match. This is the Hell in a Cell. And it was the only one on the pay-per-view, which kind of annoys me.
We'll discuss.
We'll talk about it later. But man, it was just, it could have been shorter. And honestly, I would have not been mad. Like we talked about this earlier, that if he would have just been like, hey guys, I can't perform, and showed us the picture, I would have been like, cool, dude, I believe you. You don't have to come out. I paid my ticket already. I don't care that your face is on the chairs or the poster.
Girl, I wanted Brandy to come out and throw the towel in for him at one point because I'm like, this is just too much. Mm-hmm. And I hope it isn't something that other wrestlers will model themselves off of, thinking, well, you know, Cody did it, so I'm going to wrestle injured. Like, I hope that's not the example that he's setting. And I hope that wrestlers aren't thinking like, well, I'll make a name for myself. I'll wrestle while I'm injured. Because at the end of the day, it's not good for the company and it's not good for your own personal health. In regards to the rest of the show, like Iridian said, that was the only Hell in a Cell match, which I thought the women's match was a Hell in a Cell match until we sat down and there was no sell down. They were having an amazing match. It was one of the best matches of the night, but they weren't in the cell. There was one Hell in a Cell match at Hell in a Cell.
I feel like this has happened before where like every single match is not like a Hell in a Cell match. Like TLC, I think if your pay-per-view is called Tables, Ladders, and Chairs, every match should be a Tables, Ladders, and Chairs match. Maybe with the exception of like the pre-show and like the first match or something. But really, there was maybe 7 matches on the card and only the last one was in a cell. And this one was Cody was injured.
Right.
Like, where was the women's cage? I don't know why they didn't do that. I think they had it last year, didn't they? Or the year before that, where the women were in the cage. Somebody confirm or deny in the DMs, please.
Yes, please let us know because we are genuinely curious.
Yes.
I do agree. I think the women should have been in the cage. I don't necessarily think that the whole card needs to be Hell in a Cell, but I do think maybe like 2 to 3 matches could be. I think they need to focus on the theme of the pay-per-view.
Like, I get it from Money in the Bank, right? Because a men's match and a women's match, and everyone can't have that Money in the Bank. But like, this is Hell in a Cell, guys. Come on.
I felt like the matches were decent. I mean, I would have definitely liked to see more SmackDown representation. The fact that there was only one SmackDown match confused everyone, I believe. Just having that one match was kind of, I don't know, it made me wonder if we're going back to the Raw-themed pay-per-views and the SmackDown-themed pay-per-views because of how this pay-per-view was formatted, or I'm sorry, Premium Live Event was formatted.
Wow.
So
is that what they said it was?
Yes, so WWE now classifies their their pay-per-views as premium live events.
Yeah. Why did we need to see Baron Corbin in a match? I don't understand. And Madcap Moss, I don't get it. Next, we weren't really there for that match.
We were not. We were in the concession line and Allstate Arena. I'm going to need y'all to do better when it comes to the concessions because no wine, no margaritas. Everybody had beer.
Yeah, they're usually all beer in the arena. I know there's one that has a Dunkin' Donuts in there, and that's what Teddy and I usually get. We'll go and get our iced coffees, and that really, really hypes us up. But it's usually just beer. There aren't any cocktails, and I want to say it's because it's just longer. It takes longer to make a drink than it does to hand out a beer.
Girl, it took longer for them to hand us our pretzel than anything.
Well, I know, but I feel like this was the wrong set of staff.
Yes.
Because I feel like the pizza line was going quicker because
Yeah.
it was just slice, and people were ready to go. And here, there was 2 different lines for the same things, and they had to put the nachos in the box, and then they had to put the cheese, and then they have to open water bottles and stuff. And there was just no sense of urgency, which was the problem. So this is why we missed the majority of Baron Corbin's match. Honestly, it's fine that I missed that match. Like, was it like, oh my God, a must-see and a pay-per-view match at this point? I don't think so.
Right. The match that I was the most interested in, other than the 2 that we've already discussed, is Judgment Day versus AJ Styles, Finn Balor, and Liv Morgan. And Rhea Ripley, my friend, that gear girl is what you need to be rocking. And I saw that she said that her gear didn't come in time. Girl, you don't need to tell us all that, okay? You looked good. You got the girlies and the guys up in arms on the internet, okay? I am no better than a man.
Yeah.
Because she looked good.
She did look great. Unfortunately, this is not the first time that's happened to Rhea, because we've known that previously she's had to wrestle in Damian Priest's pants.
I'm glad she didn't this time.
Amazing. She really pulled it off. But I want to talk about the United States Championship match. So Mustafa Ali comes out, and we were like, please. He was wearing an amazing Chicago shirt, and it was just not happening. Lo and I were fully cheering, fully supporting this man. The arena was behind us. Everybody was ready for Ali to win this championship. And then again, like it usually happens, we got played. So I don't understand. And on Monday Night Raw, I guess he's not even in the title picture anymore. So what are they doing with Ali? There needs to be more plans for this.
After watching this match and seeing the outcome, I can understand why he wanted to be released. Because you have a man that is a great wrestler. He brings a lot to the table, and he's in this match in his hometown against Austin Theory, so that you won't find it online when you Google him. And he loses the match. He has incredible moments during the match, and he still loses, even in his hometown. And side note, they should have sold the out of that shirt when it came to merch. That shirt was nowhere to be found. There was absolutely no Mustafa Ali merch in Chicago, which completely had me confused. People had on CM Punk merch, but they did not have Mustafa Ali merch on because there was none available in the venue. That was a major L, in my opinion. And the shirt, his whole gear was cute.
It was so adorable. His family was front row. And I'm just so disappointed because I've seen him have so many matches in Chicago when they've been title matches. And every single time the city backs him up and they will cheer for him. And their emotions will just be 100% in these matches for him to just come so close. And I feel like WWE just plays us every single time with this man. And it's really unfortunate because if you're not going to make him champion and you're just going to give him all of these regular matches, why are you going to be mad when he asks to be released? Why are you going to keep him if you're not going to use him and showcase him?
Exactly. Honestly, the only thing that I can hope for at this point is that John Cena mops the floor with Austin Theory. I swear. Like, it's irritating that Ali is kind of collateral damage to make Theory look good at this point. Yeah. It really, really irritates me. Speaking of John Cena's coming back.
Ah! I'm insane. I am not okay.
Is anyone?
No.
I am unwell. So John Cena, it was announced on Monday Night Raw that John Cena will be returning in Laredo, Texas in a couple of weeks. And one can easily assume that John Cena is going to go face-to-face with Austin Theory, who a lot of people have said is the next John Cena, which let's not go that far.
It hasn't been us, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, it has not been us.
We have not been the ones that have said that.
Yeah.
And there is no comparison between John Cena and Austin Theory. Let me just start there. John Cena on a TikTok video or like promo for WWE, I don't know. He was asked, who's your favorite WWE superstar? And he said Theory. And I 100% believe that they paid that man to say that. And he said, who would he want to face? Austin Theory. I do believe that. And I hope that Cena really, like you said, mops the floor with this man, because that's what we were hoping that Ali would do. There's no comparison. He needs to be humbled and taken off of this pedestal and just put back, not even in NXT 2.0, somewhere else, because I don't get the hype.
A-Town literally needs to be down. But I think John Cena coming back for this summer run, as many have called it, will be interesting. As we know, he doesn't have any movies to be filmed in the summer, so he will be here for like a quick minute, which I think is good because, you know, you have Cody out, you have Roman who's only working a select amount of dates. You need someone that is going to elevate your brand when they are on the show, and I feel like John Cena is that perfect moneymaker / person to have at the top of the game. He has that Hollywood flair. He has his WWE superstar backing. He's the perfect person. You'd be bringing over crossover people who might have watched Peacemaker, who might have watched the other things that he's been in, and be interested in seeing what the superstar John Cena brings to the table.
You know what's interesting? I'm going to go back to Theory. And on Monday Night Raw, he went up to Bobby Lashley and he said, bro, what's up? So I would hope that this becomes a match between Bobby Lashley and Bobby can really work, because in Chicago, I was surprised at the amount of fans that Lashley has. This man was a hero. You would have thought he was from Chicago, the way people were cheering for him.
Yeah, I didn't expect that from Bobby Lashley either in regards to the fan response, because he really didn't have that response in Texas. Like, people cheered for him, but the way that the fans acted in Chicago was like he saved the world. Like, they were louder for him than I think they were for Ali. Obviously, they weren't as loud for Bobby Lashley as they were for Cody, but it was up there.
Yeah.
And, you know, Bobby has been doing great work. I can't knock him there. He's been doing great work with Omos and MVP. But I honestly did not know he was a fan favorite like that. So we'll see if he eventually goes up against Theory. I just think it's really weird that Ali is kind of like, okay, we gave you this opportunity. You lost. We're not going any further with this story. I just think it's really odd that they kind of just brushed him away so fast when there's been other instances where people lose and they get title shot after title shot after title shot, but not Ali, not him. And that irritates me, and I just want to know what's next for Ali. I do want to know, what do they plan to do with him long term? Because if it's continual losing, why would he want to be there? Why would he want to be involved in these storylines where he's continually losing?
I'm tired of getting played. That's all I got.
Me too. Vince McMahon, quit playing us. This has been another episode of Chardonnay and Chisme. Thank you, Iridian, for joining me as always. Where can the people find you on social media?
You can find me and the Rest Friends podcast on your favorite streaming platforms, on Spotify and iTunes, and also on Twitter and Instagram, as well as Facebook. And our merch will soon be up on Spring Tees, so be on the lookout for that.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Wrestling Winedown. You can find all of our other episodes available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, iHeartRadio, and wherever else you listen to your podcast. We're also on Twitter and Instagram at WWDCAST. Let us know what you thought about the episode. What was your favorite part? Until next time, enjoy your wine and, of course, enjoy your wrestling. Cheers!